Hey, everybody, it's Tuesday. It's noon. And we really just started with a quick discussion. This week is This Week in Real Estate. So it's kind of that open topic. David and I got some things that we want to talk about. Lauren Younga is going to be jumping in with us also. But we kind of started before we got the recording going. So I wanted to give everybody this opportunity to just know that Brenda's got a listing where it's a beautiful new listing, great condition, and she's looking to be able to do some virtual staging. What we've discussed this far is that make sure that we're given the proper representation, that we're not misrepresenting, because we're dealing with one, the rules and regulations of the MLS, two, we're dealing with the code of ethics. So it's two things. We have to represent the property for what it is. And so the other part that came out is have your staged photo with the actual photo so that we know what the key is there. And then the question came up, which started this whole conversation, is does an app exist that allows us to do that? And David, you were just about to jump in on that one.
Yeah, and Danny in Rochester, Chat GPT can also do that as well. I kind of showcased that in one of my sales meetings, where you can take a picture of your actual room and then type it in like to furnish it, and it will actually do that. So as long as you have, and to David DeWood's point, as long as you have the original picture that has nothing, and then you have the other picture that has all the additives, it's not going to be misleading because you get to see both sides. And then you can do that for free.
Yeah. And David, what was there a program that you had mentioned or an app that you mentioned that could do that?
Yeah, there's a bunch on the App Store. You just kind of have to sample with them. Usually they're per picture charges. So they'll charge you like a couple of bucks. And then you can also do it from a PC as well. So if your pictures are on your PC and you're doing it from there, you can do it from there. There's websites instead of apps. You just have to Google and there's at least two, three. I never fully used them, I'll be honest with you, because at the time they looked kind of cheesy. I know that some of these people make it look really good. If you wanted to make it look really good, your photographer can often do that. So whoever's taking your pictures of your listing, they sometimes can do it. They might charge you a little bit more, but they'll probably do the best job in virtual staging.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. Brenda, does that help out?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So then let's shift gears here. You may notice, let's see, can they tell where we're at today?
Maybe.
So we're hanging out today with the gang in Rochester, and my partner today, David Wintermeyer, is the branch manager for both our Rochester location and Troy. David is really assisted by two great administrative coordinators. I think that's our proper title for them. So he's got Sherry here in Rochester, and he's got Donna over there in Troy. And it's in Troy that you guys ran into some interesting situations with concessions. What do we have? How can we learn from this?
I mean, a lot of what we're seeing right now is because the market, there's so much like change, and there's so many different like styles of way that people can write offers and make sure that they're going to be the best that they can. And what we're running into is because there's not a lot of inventory and everyone is going up against the same property, it's being creative and being strategic with your verbiage when you have to write a contingent offer.
And so it's that competitive situation.
Yes.
I'm going to say that it's either going to make us look really good, could make us look really bad, and it might make us look really good. And then in the future, we could be in trouble because of a way that we wrote it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and it's a lot of education to our buyer and our seller, but it's also strategically putting them in a place to where they're not going to end up homeless if they're going to be selling to buy at the same time.
Yeah, because I mean, the reality is if you talk to a lot of people, they don't want to list because they could end up homeless. So we go, well, we could take a listing, which is contingent upon you finding suitable housing. I mean, that's a very common thing that we will do if a seller's willing to do that.
Absolutely.
But now that's a quick, easy contingency on the listing agreement because we're not going to take advantage of anybody.
Right.
But it's really now when they go to purchase, How's that written, and what do we need to take care of? Because I think that's one of them that you ran into.
Yes, yeah. So the biggest thing is, a lot of our clients that need to sell to buy, they're in a position where they want to utilize the equity that they have, so that way they don't have to upfront all that cash, and maybe they don't have all that cash, so they're going to use the equity in their home. So it's a lot of education around that perspective. Us as a buyer agent and a listing agent for the same client, we need to position them in a situation to where their house is ready to go. Listing photos are done. Listing is put into RealComp or MI Real Source, whatever MLS you use, and making sure that that is ready to go. As a flip of a button, you can have your admin make that live and make that ready to go. Make sure they're pre-approved with a quality lender, so that way we know that they're going to be in the best position possible. And then when you're shopping with them and you find something that they want, obviously you need to write that this offer is contingent upon the successful sale of their property. So where the verbiage is going to come into play is going to be super important. So a lot of what I've used in the past is putting a timeline and putting a time limit in the contingency. So obviously it's going to be contingent upon successful sale of 123 Main Street.
And matter of fact, here's a wee bit of what I would add. What is a sale? If you guys answered that question, what is a sale? When is it sold? Would anybody think that maybe it's sold? Does anybody use the term sold when you got an offer accepted on it?
No.
Could it be misinterpreted? Because what do we do when we get a contingent offer that we make and we remove the contingency? We remove the contingency of sale. Now it's contingent upon the closing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is part of what we were talking about. There's a word that we all know what we meant by it.
Right.
But now does the other party know, and or could they misconstrue? So we have to be careful in regards to how we write these, because I actually would put contingent upon the successful sale and closing. Now there's no misinterpretation, which is the big part, and why David and I thought we got to discuss this, and really why Donna brought it up to us. So
absolutely.
I wanted to jump in on that part of it, because there's a single word that's going to potentially get misinterpreted and cause trouble for us.
Right. And most people aren't going to catch that.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and until it didn't work in their favor.
Right. Correct. And then alongside with that is also putting a timeline as to when the property initially goes live, that we're not just going to be waiting for days and months and weeks and years for this property to sell. So putting a cap, putting a limit onto it, but also allowing the buyer and seller to renegotiate if we supersede that timeline. So for me, like what I've used in the past is, if we haven't accepted an offer within 14 business days, we can renegotiate, because then it's like, did we price the property correctly? Did our buyer, who is also our seller, have not the best, not the right expectation? Did they want to put their property up too high? Did we price it to sell? Are we competitive? Are we in an area where it's going to get a lot of exposure? A lot of these things take into effect.
And in this part, we're talking about, are we on the offer that our seller/buyer is making?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So there's so many things to think about.
Right.
That one, I'm going to tell you, use prepared clauses. When you have questions, you've got guys and gals like David who are called branch managers, and we turn to them for their experience, their wisdom as to how to properly write this, so that we're covering our client primarily, but really watching out for our backside. Now, what about, we put our house on the market, here's one of these contingencies. We put our seller's home on the market, contingent upon finding suitable housing. Pretty easy term to be able to write, put in, or a clause. And again, I'm going to show you where those come in at. But what about when they go to make, or let me rephrase that, when the house is now, what term should I use? Receives an offer and they go to accept it. What kind of contingency on the acceptance, because we haven't found? So part of it, I think you're going to get into that 14 days, 30 days.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so if we're if we're out shopping and our buyer and seller is their house is ready to go, we have everything, we just need to flip a button and it's live, it's good to go. We still need to make sure that they're also like we can still go down that avenue of making sure that they have their inspection, everything is kosher with their purchase, but we need to now make sure that their listing is getting the exposure, it's getting the activity, it's being seen, which is why we put that number, that restriction in there of saying like, hey, if we haven't got anything in 10 to 14 days or however many days you want to put it in there, we can renegotiate, because we also don't want the seller on the opposite side sitting and waiting all day long, all month long, all year long if we're not going to get anywhere.
How about the situation where we put the home on the market because the seller slash buyer is confident that the home that they want is going to be out there. They want to have I always call it the strength in the negotiating position, because there's one less thing for a seller to actually have to worry about, because again, they're working with a buyer who has an additional contingency, says in most cases,
Right.
we can't close unless we close on ours. And that's a risk on this other seller. So if we go out and we find a home, but we can't find it in ourselves right away, so we put ours on the market.
Right.
Everybody kind of give me this as you're with me on this scenario. We want to be proactive. The seller's willing to put it on the market. And before we find one, the house sells. How would we put a contingency of acceptance that covers both?
So if we're going to go on the flip side and they're extremely confident that they're going to be able to find what they want aggressively, if you will, and they go ahead and they list their property right off the rip without even waiting to search or start shopping, the most we can ask for occupancy post closing is 60 days. So we want to make sure that we're setting them up again for success, so they don't end up homeless and end up having to go into a hotel or some situation like that.
So that's one where we might, because again, we're talking contingencies and negotiation with all of this. We might have a seller who's really aggressive and saying, look, I'll sell it because I'm confident. And they'll accept it without a contingency on the purchase agreement they've received, but they're going to look for a longer occupancy time post-closing.
Correct.
And you mentioned 60 days. What's the reason for that? Why is it only 60 days? Is there any other option?
I mean, usually depending if you have a really, really kind buyer on the other side, normally when you sign, seal, deliver and you're on the closing table, usually your mortgage company is going to skip you 30 days. So you're going to have one whole month of out without paying a mortgage. So that's going to lead us into that 60-day marker. And essentially a new owner, because once you sign those paperwork, you are no longer the owner of that property, just staying there. The new owner doesn't want to have the old owner in there for longer than that time frame. So usually they're kind with 60 days. That's sometimes a stretch, but that is the most legal you can ask for without having any issues with your mortgage.
I got to move around here a little bit. Keep going. Because the other part, and you hit the key to this, and I don't know if anybody knows this. Could you run that over here? My battery's dying on me. The mortgage company is the one who's going to restrict the 30 or the 60 days. See, if you've ever noticed it, they'll ask, is this your primary residence?
Okay, back.
Where were we? Oh, so here's a key.
mortgage
We were
restricting.
talking about the 60 days. And what we've got is that it's the mortgage company. So if a mortgage is involved, they're not lending on property, which is, I don't want to say, it's not an investment property. It's there as the principal residence. So they want to make sure the buyer, and that they're lending to people who are actually going to live in the home. So that's the reason for 60 days if there's a mortgage. Now, if you got a really kind buyer and they're paying cash,
right?
Well, now you don't have to worry about the 60 days as long as you got a buyer who's willing to do that.
Correct.
So that can be one of the things. On the other hand, you might have to make the offer accepted contingent upon a successful sale and closing up. Now, if it's, what do I say? If it's already, well, here, no, we're going to, I got to keep myself on right situation. Our buyer seller accepting an offer on their home. You'll need to, if the offer comes in prior to them finding one, and even then, subject to the closing of suitable housing within 14, something of that nature.
Right.
It's very, very similar, but already you can see with the way I'm thinking, I'm going, how do we got to write this?
Right.
So be with your branch manager and make sure that you're checking in with them to do this.
Yeah,
So,
because the verbiage is going to be very important to make sure that the success of that, and not only, but that it also like lands well, and that the other person understands, the other agent gets it, so that way they're able to parlay that to their seller, so that way they understand like what's happening and how they can expect the next potential 15 days to look like while they're accepting it, and then they're going through inspection, they're making sure all the things are health and safety concerns are taken care of. We want to make sure that, you know, our buyer / seller at the same time is also set up for success as well.
all right, so let's do this. I'm going to do a screen share here, guys. And everybody's familiar with what this looks like here. So we want to make sure that you're aware of all of the clauses. So there's clauses in SkySlope, in Transaction Desk. They're already written. You can create your own. I would recommend that you do that under the guidance and supervision of guys like this, or your branch, whoever your branch manager is. Get with them. But here's the bottom line. In SkySlope, you click in the additional conditions, and I can put add a clause. And what I want you to catch is there's all of these clauses. Some of them are simple. Some of them are very lengthy. As a matter of fact, some of them I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to copy or go talk to your branch manager and get with them. And what I'm referring to is this would be on the appraisal guarantee, potentially.
Escalation
The
clause.
escalation clause is the biggest one.
And I would say too, make sure you're reviewing these, because Larry in Rochester and I ran into an issue where the characters are too long and it starts cutting off things. The biggest thing to remember when we're writing clauses, we're writing any type of escalation, any type of additional contingencies, short and sweet and to the point. Like, we don't need all the extra fluff. We don't need all the extra little, you know, sparkles and all the things. It's short and sweet and to the point. Ultimately, we don't want to leave any room or openness for error. And not only that, but for a lender to then second guess, and then it's going to cause delays and it's going to cause extra problems. So short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah, the only time that you're going to get lengthy, matter of fact, if you're going to write anything lengthy, you use these or you see them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way you have to do it, because the best way that I can put this, there was at one time a agent that actually was part of Coldwell Banker, and this was a few years back. She wrote an offer with an escalation clause that I believe buyer, seller, buyer's agent who wrote the offer, seller's agent, I think they were all on the same page. But I want you to picture this. It was an escalation clause with an appraisal guarantee of like 10,000, 15,000, and all accepted. Appraisal comes out. We're talking, it's like $100,000 less than the agreed upon purchase price. And the purchaser goes, okay, seller, well, I guaranteed $10,000. So the appraisal was, we'll use 400. Here's our new purchase price, 410. And the seller says, I don't think so. I didn't say I would accept whatever the appraisal comes up at. Well, guess what? Because it was left open for interpretation, we didn't really answer the what if, and we didn't have clarity. This was just, she wrote it in plain and simple, beyond. And I'm pointing to my guys here in Rochester. They all know that, and you've already said it, less is more.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to escalation clauses, there's too many situations that I couldn't write what I put together in a escalation clause. Couldn't write it. I could rewrite it looking at it, but it covers all of the what ifs. So that's what I really want you to know is that these clauses exist. They're in transaction desk. They're in SkySlope. You drop it in. Some of them, by the way, I can tell you, even going and adding it to the addendum, as David said, there's too many characters on it. It won't fit. So either you get with your branch manager and make some minor adjustments to it, or you're going to have to copy it and create an addendum. I'd be fully okay with this. Had to have done it myself, but be careful. Make sure that when you're in doubt, that you get with your branch manager. Was there anything else in regards to those contingencies that you guys ran into that you feel is important to share?
It's the buy sell, the sell to buy situation, adding any additional clauses, your escalation, your appraisal guarantee. Always make sure when you write your appraisal guarantee, this is an important one, make sure that you cap it, because if you don't cap it, you can end up paying more for what you agreed upon. So always make sure that the verbiage that you put in there is not to exceed purchase price of X, whatever that purchase price is. Because if you leave it open, as you know, we're going to give a $10,000 appraisal guarantee, and it comes in at value, you're still paying $10,000 more because you didn't cap it. So now you're at 500, now you're at 510, and your buyer's gonna be really upset. The seller's gonna be happy, but your buyer's gonna be really upset.
I'll tell you, it's just one of those that if you don't think the way that he and I are thinking, guys, you've just got to use the pre-existing clauses and use those. Don't create your own, especially when you start getting all wordy, because at that point, you're practicing law, and that's a violation of our licensing. So Donna, are you still there? Did David and I cover everything in regards to what you two ran into?
Yes. Katie's on. She's
You're off mute, but we don't hear you. Either that, it's me. Hold on a second. That's probably me. Sorry, Donna. Everybody else is hearing you. I've got to make a change here real quick. Try me now.
Katie is actually one of the agents. She's on here. She had
Yeah, well, it's my, this is hooked up incorrectly after my other one died. And we didn't get. Okay, go ahead. Let's see if we can do this without.
Katie was the agent that had the buy and sell on it, contingencies, and she's on here. I don't know if she had any other questions. I think we covered most of it, but Katie Armstrong's on here.
Yeah, I learned a lot from this. So, and the situation I was just the deal I was just working on too. So I had contingencies all the way around. So I'm glad that we got to cover this today because I picked up even more information from today, even from my recent learning experience. So thank you both. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Irene received a contingent offer on one of her properties too. I'm not sure if this covered everything that she was wondering about.
Irene, you want to jump in on that?
Regarding what? I cannot remember what exactly, which deal.
All right. Well, then I'll tell you what, if we're good on that, I'm going to shift gears. And Lauren, are you ready? She is. So Lauren Younga ran into one personally, and you think it's really easy buying a house in a trust, right? If you've had any experience at all, that's pretty easy. But there are some unique situations that, especially when you're representing the buyer, you should just know. So Lauren, share, because I've run into it once in 39 years, and she's run into it now, but it took her, what, 11 years?
Took me 11 years for sure. So I was actually representing the seller on this one. And at the time, so this was 2 weeks ago, I think it was. And I had received multiple offers. And of course, when you receive multiple offers, your job is to go through each and every one of them, read the different contracts, see what's different, right? So I went through all of them. I think I got like 5 of them. And obviously the one that stuck out was 25,000 over asking in cash. So of course, hey, I'm gonna call and I'm gonna do my due diligence on it. So I noticed on the purchase agreement it was written in a trust. So okay, cool, don't care. Talked to the agent. She said it was all good. So I called the bank and I'm like, hey, first of all, it took 2 days, almost 2 days, full days to get the proof of funds. She did not submit the offer with the proof of funds. So that was issue number one. And obviously I told her we want to accept your offer, but we're not going to until you provide a proof of funds. So I finally get proof of funds and I call the number that's on the letter. And the woman tells me, it was with Comerica. And she had told me that, it was in a trust and that they had to, she wasn't sure that they could go with the 4-day inspection period. And I said, what do you mean? I don't understand. I'm going to need you to elaborate a little bit more on that. And she's like, well, we do our own due diligence. And I said, again, I'm going to need you to elaborate on that, please. And it turns out that Comerica, when you're buying a house where the house is in a trust, they do their own inspection, their own sewer scope, their own radon, their own survey, and they do an appraisal, all to buy a house that's in a trust.
So I
even
want I want you guys to catch really what this is. So essentially, this is a person who has a whole lot of money.
Mhm.
It's their money. It's in a trust, and in this case, held by Comerica. So even though think of it this way, it's your money, they manage it all.
Yep.
So this person couldn't do things by their own. Comerica had to do it.
Yeah. And so when I said, well, I go, wait a minute. I go, I thought this was a cash offer. And she's like, well, technically she wasn't even allowed to submit an offer without us signing on it. And I said, what? I was like, I don't like, I'm still like, you're throwing me for a loophole. I go, it's a cash offer. Why do you have to have an appraisal? And she said, we have to make sure the house is worth it prior to us releasing the money. And
See,
I was just
the gal who's got the
floored.
money. Yeah, the gal who's got the money,
Mhm.
it's her money.
She's not in charge of her own money,
But
apparently.
she's not in charge of it. She's not a trustee.
Right. So the moral of the story, and again, I ran into this not even just with myself, I ran into it with one of my agents as well. She had received an offer where on her listing where it was through Zillow Home Loans, but it flat out said on there, and buyers or agents are walking around with these like no big deal. It said that none of their data has been collected. They have their tax returns, their credit has been pulled, nothing has been collected. But here you're approved for 300,000. And I was just floored that an agent submitted it. So not only do we have one agent who didn't have proof of funds, and she had been writing offers for 2 months from me, but then we had another one who was walking around with a pre-approval that wasn't even a pre-approval. So the moral of why Darwin and I were chatting had a lot to do with, it doesn't matter if you're a buyer's agent. It does not matter if you're a listing agent. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters for each and every one of you guys is that you do your due diligence prior to accepting an offer as a listing agent, or even taking them to go see one house. No one wants anyone to waste their time, right? Like I said, this woman who submitted an offer on my listing, gosh, a month, 2 months. No, it was 2 months, sorry. 2 months she had been showing this woman houses, and she had no idea that was how Comerica Bank worked with their trust.
And that's how this trustee or this buyer was going to have to buy a house.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to end up with it. It's the trust. It's your trust, but you're not a trustee. Somebody else has to have it. My case, it was my next door neighbor was taking care of the trust of a friend who had passed, and it was by the widow, a new home. Well, we went out together, but it was my friend who actually signed all of the paperwork. She would not be able to do it because she's not a trustee of her trust.
Mhm.
She's the beneficiary of the trust. So, you know, it really does. And this, Lauren, you nailed it well. You've got to do your due diligence. There's a reason that we ask for proof of funds.
Mhm.
There's a reason that we ask for a pre-approval letter. And one of the things that we should do is to ensure that it's actually a pre-approval. To what extent have they granted that approval?
Mhm.
Uh,
No,
was that a
granted,
pre-qualification?
when we work with our trusted lenders, right? The lenders that I have both in Sterling and Clinton, the lenders that David had, well, whoever anyone has, right? Our in-house lenders. When we work with them, we know we can trust that they're going to pull everything. They will not lead us in the wrong direction. But when you get these people who come in from Zillow Home Loans and they have to, they want to use that lender,
Just as
obviously
an example.
we can't say no. We can't say no to them using it. But obviously, we want to make sure that you guys are protected in every shape, way, and form.
Yes. Yes. So that was a great one
I
that popped
agree,
up this week.
Lauren. You should. Yeah, due diligence. I make a habit whenever I get an offer to contact that lender right away, have a
Mhm.
conversation, and make sure that they've completed everything and that this pre-approval that they've given me, it's valid and not only worth the paper that it's written on. The other thing with regarding to the trust situation, I guess that could apply with the buyer or seller, because if the beneficiary, for instance, has a home that has been put in this trust and is their home, if they decide to sell it, then they're still going to have to go back to that trust, whoever is overseeing it, to make
Who's
certain
signing
that
for the
this
trustee?
person has the right to put it on the market. So that would go both ways with a client that's buying or selling where trust is involved.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We just,
Well,
go ahead, Darren.
well, I was gonna go to the wrap up. If you got something else, Lauren, go ahead.
No, I truly cannot nail this in the head any more than please make sure you do your due diligence. Like, it doesn't matter if your due diligence is the inspection period and making sure you get everything done in the time frame that you need to. If not, do an extension, right? It doesn't matter if it's doing your due diligence, making sure your clients can afford it and they're comfortable, right? Even a pre-approval with a buyer. Hey, did you talk about monthly payment? I understand that you're qualified for 500, but are you comfortable with that payment, right? It is our job to protect them and to I say that I'm coddling them and I'm holding them tight because I want to protect them, right? But you cannot do enough due diligence for your clients.
Absolutely. So lots that we could continue on with this subject, but I think the huge benefit is you got well, former branch managers like Brenda. You got currently great branch managers like Lauren, like this guy to my right, your office. We've got great branch managers who are there for you to be able to help out. It's one of the big things that you've got as part of the value package belonging to Century 21 professionals and Coldwell Banker professionals. Use them. And that leads me also to coming up next week. I'm going to give a shameless plug because how many of you on here have done, I'm going to say 15 deals or less? Don't raise your hands. That's a rhetorical question. Are you registered for next week's listing mastery course? If you haven't been with any of the courses that HRC Realty has done, well, you should be there. Because I will share with you being very direct, and this is your coach loving upon you. I don't know how you could do 4 deals or less in the 12 months. I really don't. With the tools that are provided, even if you're dual career, my simple statement is just go talk to people. Mm-hmm. The biggie is that what we're talking about with that is be there. If you're there, you can close 4 deals a year minimum. But it's best to be good when you do get there. because now we can either close that many more or we can close easier with fewer leads, simply because we're out there and we know what we're doing. This listing mastery course is different from anything else if you've been with us before. It's not a whole lot of Darwin talking. It's a whole lot of some great agents, top professionals, Karina Ball, Dawn Hendricks, Karen Greenwood, Maria Kopicki. And some of you are going, who is that? These guys are only doing about 40, 50 deals a year. Some of them, maybe it's 15, but Karina, I can't remember how much. Karina's been a top producer for Century 21 for years. These guys are giving their time, going to come and spend a day or two with you and share their experience, their knowledge, and the wisdom that they gain. And we're going to put you into skill building exercises. So yes, we're going to increase your knowledge. We're going to do that by the sharing that I've got. And people don't know, by the way, I've been to 37 states teaching everybody else how to sell real estate. In my high back, let's see, it was 2014, I closed 37 deals. So yeah, there's stuff to learn from some high producing people. All it costs you is $99. And if you take 3 listings within 30 days of the end of the course,
You get refunded.
So have you registered? I sent out a video yesterday, gave you the full walkthrough of everything that's going to happen and all the people that you're going to get to hear from. I don't know why you wouldn't be there. So what I would tell you is seats are limited. It is on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's the 5th and 6th. It's in Grand Blanc at the Warwick Hills Golf and Country Club. But David, it's a long ways. Guys, I remember what changed my career was going to a course for 12 weeks. Back in the day when I was going from Muskegon to Lansing and I had to do it once a week. I love you enough to say, call the ambulance and get your butts in the seat. So register and be there, okay? If you don't have that registration, see your administrative coordinator, see your branch manager, and they'll get you the icon and shortcut to be able to get you to register.
Wow.
I hope you can see that I just care. Can you tell? All right. That was, all right. Italy, you're off the hook. I'll give you that. So gang, anything to add? Anything to close out with, David?
I mean, no, honestly, I mean, I feel like, with the market that we're in, education, verbiage, elevating your ability to educate your people is super important. You can't ever have enough knowledge. There's always tips and tricks to do something differently that can have you stick out. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not a one-size-fits-all business. So if you have the ability to be just a little different, you could be that extra, sparkle that's going to stand out where someone else may not be able to do so.
What you got for us, Val?
You know how when we have inspections, you always got Uncle Bob who has their opinion.
So an inspection and Uncle Bob's there.
Any of those types of
chewing and munching.
So has anybody run into AI looking over an inspection and screwing it up? Does anybody run into that?
No.
It's kind of like the AI Uncle Bob is what she's bringing it across as. Anybody?
I have a little bit with a property that we closed on. It was an up north property. A lot did come up on the inspection report. I mean, there was mold and or fungal growth, we'll call it that, but a lot came up. And luckily it was clients that trusted me and we were able to kind of talk through it. I was able to maybe guide them to some people who could give them more accurate estimates than AI, which was overestimating everything, by thousands of dollars, so it was a lot of just connecting them with the right contacts and making sure they could use their due diligence time to maybe have some people come out and give them a more accurate idea.
So if you're curious, basically what someone can do is simply input the entire inspection into AI, Chat GPT or whatever one it may be, and say, give me a synopsis of what I need to be concerned with. Tell me how much these repairs might cost me. And of course, by the way, depending upon how you ask it, it's going to go on every issue that was brought up. So yeah, just you've got to think of the way that could come up. That's a great one. I hadn't even thought of that one actually yet. High-end agent that she had seen a report with had a high-end deal who lost a big deal because of AI. 4 months putting the deal together.
He was getting a good value.
Seller asked Chat GPT if he was getting a good value.
Buyer said, yes, that was paid too much.
And buyer did the same thing, basically. Am I paying too much? Yeah. Yeah. I gave each of them the right answer that they wanted to hear. Be prepared, guys. We're in that world. You really do. And you nailed it. Always be learning, because it's been 39 years for me, and the market's constantly changed. Every day there's something to learn.
Well, I think too, like, even like with the way of the world now, I mean, our AI, our Chat GPT, if you will, like, yeah, it's a great tool to use, but sparingly. It's like our WebMD, right? Like, oh no, I'm sick. What do I have? And it's going to tell you got cancer, you're going to die tomorrow. I mean, it's the same situation with Chat GPT, right? So it's like, be careful what you're putting in there, because yeah, it's great, but it's not always true.
Yeah.
And that's why like for us, like our jobs will never go away. You need somebody to open a door. You need someone to help give you that guidance. Not a robot is going to give you the guidance of what a normal person that has thoughts and cares is going to do. Just like, oh no, I have this cough and my throat is sore and this, that, and the third. Oh, well, you got, throat cancer and this, that, and the third. Yeah, now you're going to freak everybody out. And of course, it's going to throw deals and it's going to do.
Have you eaten bacon?
Right,
Yeah.
So,
it's funny, David.
So the tools
It's
are
funny,
great.
David, that you should.
Go ahead.
It's funny, David, that you should use that WebMD. I can remember years ago, I woke up and I had this feeling in the middle of my chest, right? And it was just causing some discomfort. So I Googled the symptoms, and it told me I could be having a heart attack. This is like 2 in the morning. I wake my husband up, tell him we got to get to the hospital like right now. I had acid reflux after being in the hospital for several hours, and they ran numerous tests. I had acid reflux. So I went away from the hospital knowing I was in good health, other than that, because they ran every test imaginable. But it was just so true. You can't always
let's go way back to
on
computer
those.
technology and programming.
Yeah.
Anybody remember the GIGO principle? GIGO? I don't know if they taught that to you young'uns. It was this: garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage into the computer, you're still going to get garbage out. It gave the answer for how it was educated. Well, listen, artificial intelligence. It's using what's out there and getting educated from all of the stuff. So if it's pulling garbage, it's going to still give you a garbage answer.
Yeah.
We just got to be able to combat it, guys. That's why, humans.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be able to do a lot of things.
That's why our value propositions are so important. Our buyer consultations are important. Our listing consultations are important, because you get to lay the field for that. You get to create that blueprint that's going to allow you to elevate not only your customer's experience, but know that they're in the best hands possible. Everyone is going to get, squirrely, and they're going to look at ChatGPT, or they're going to go to WebMD, or they're going to do these things. But if you put them at ease and you can put them in the best hands possible by giving them that education, you're never going to fail.
And that's part of the reason, again, to show up for next week. Although we're not going to go into specifically objection handling, we can't help but to get onto it with what we're going to be doing and building the skill to take listings, to set appointments. So,
excuse me,
guys.
Darren,
Go ahead, Marietta.
Just one question. I was supposed to go on a listing, and they, we talked and everything was fine. And And then she said, well, what's your percentage? And I said, well, we offer 6, because, we work for you. I gave her the thing. And they said, okay, we set the appointment. She called me back and said she canceled the appointment. And I said, well, may I ask why? And she said, because Redfin. She talked to Redfin, and Redfin was going to do it for 1 to 3%. If they buy and sell from them, they get a 1%. Is there a catch there that I should be able to speak on?
Well,
today?
yeah, the first part is never address it until you're at the appointment.
Okay.
That's the first one. It would be this. We're going to talk about a patterned response. A patterned response would be, what's my compensation? You know what? That's a great question. I'll tell you what, let me make that note and we'll address that first thing.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Because when she asked, what's your compensation? It's due to the fact that in real estate, we suffer from sameness. Do you know what I mean by that? Suffering from sameness. See, if there were 4 gas stations on a corner and they were all asking the same price, which one are you going to turn into? The easiest one. It's a matter of convenience. They're all the same. But if there was one that was on the most difficult one to pull into, but it was, say, 15 cents less than the other 3,
You're going to go out of your way.
I'm going to go out of my way to save money. Shoot, I do that right now with Costco gas. Right? I get 3% or 5% back on top of the low price.
Right.
I'm going out of my way and then of course probably spend money elsewhere too with that. But that's the way we've got to think about it. So what we want to do is hold off on it. But if I were truly pressed, I've got a response that says, you know what, Marietta, I've charged as little as 1% and as high as 28. I certainly wouldn't want to charge you 28 if I could get by with 1. So let me make note. I'll address that, one of the first topics we'll discuss.
Okay.
And now I'm going to hit it. And David talked about it. It's your value.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me clarify, how much do you charge, Marietta?
3.
Because that's what I believe they're doing. They're only talking about the side that they charged. And there was a number of Tuesdays ago, I couldn't tell you which one it was, but I kind of brought up the aspect, and I think we did kind of an update with it, but that I'm getting less and less of the aspect of, do we really need to collect the other 3%? Anybody remember this discussion? Do we really need to charge 6? Here was the point to this one. We get 3% as a listing agent. What if you sell it? What if you as a listing agent sell it? Now what do? Think about that. The seller's only giving you 3% to sell the house. You'd have to collect the other 3% directly from the buyer. Oh, wait a minute. Then you just built in another 3%. Oh, and you'd have to represent the buyer. You start to get where the difficulty comes in. So guys, what I would tell you is that maybe the best response when you do have to address it, preferably at the listing appointment. It's going to start this way. So Marietta, you mentioned to me that Redfin is only going to charge you somewhere between 1 to 3%, but they didn't tell you how that was going to work. What are they going to do for that 1 to 3%? Did they talk about what's going to happen on the other side of the transaction and how the buyer's agent is going to be compensated? They didn't discuss any of that. Well, listen, I have multiple levels of service. Most people don't think about this, but do you do the same thing for everybody? Could you charge more? Might you charge less? What are the services you provide? Here are the programs that I provide. If you set that up, that gives you a great response. Then it's, well, Mrs. Seller, that's up to you. You can go ahead and choose that. I could do it for 2 or I could do it for 3. But when I address it, I'm going to talk about now, I'm talking about me, what I charge. And then I'm going to say, Marietta, what you really have to know is how in today's market, the buyers brokers are being compensated and how the buyer is going to make the offer to you. So I only charge 3. But you need to know the buyers are going to ask you to pay their buyer broker.
Well, I think the other thing that we're kind of running into here too is, and especially something that like myself and Kathleen do, is if that's the first question right off the rip that somebody's trying to ask you, they're not trying to build a relationship or they're not trying to build a bond.
Buddy.
So for me, it's, you know, if somebody were to say to me, you know, well, David, like, what do you charge? My initial response to them is going to be like, okay, well, wait a second, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. So what I'm hearing is your bottom line is really what's important to you. I will definitely go over all of that with you when we meet, but I want to make sure that you're going to get the best service to understand what comes with the pricing and the terms of selling a property. It shuts that down because that's what's important to them is the bottom line, right? No one wants to feel like they're getting ripped off or they want to overpay. But if you break it down and you kind of throw them another way, it kind of puts their walls down and like, oh, well, yeah, actually, that is kind of important.
It's kind of in the pre-qualifying. I can find all kinds of shameless plugs for next week. Pre-qualifying is one of those things that you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you're not going to get scripts. There won't be any scripts. You think you're going to get scripts? No scripts. We're going to talk about how to sell and build a skill. And it's just like what you just did, because it's based upon what is the circumstance. Well, if I ask good questions in a pre-qualifying stage, I can set the stage and qualify whether or not I even want to hold this appointment still.
Right.
Because if this person is all about the compensation and not about the bottom line,
you're going to have a deal from hell.
So we're going to talk about point of differentiation, panel that's going to be discussing that. Because what makes you different? What makes you better than the other 3 stations that somebody could pull into? Because if it's all at the same cost or one's going to save me money, we know if that's the way they think that we're all the same, we know where they're going to go and they're going to go based upon the price. But if I'm good and I know what makes me different, what makes me better, what's going to help me net them more money and putting them where they want to be, well, that's where I get to do really good work and it's consistent. There's just so much that we can give. So, guys, with that one, I am seeing, 12:55. I was going to try to end this about 20 minutes ago. Thank you all for joining us. Obviously, next week, we won't be on Hot Topic Tuesday because all of us will be in Grand Blanc at the Warwick Hills Golf and Country Club for the Mastery, the listing mastery course. So get in there, sign up for it. Thank you all. David, appreciate you, bud.
Yes, thank you.
You guys
Thank
have
you.
a great one. We'll see you next week.